Welcome to another Dawn of War Crucible tutorial. Today we will be looking at demons, their strengths and weaknesses, and how to play them. As always, first thing to keep in mind is that whenever you're learning a new faction, you should go into a skirmish game, tick dev mode on, and just play around with the faction, play around with its units, all of its mechanics, and just get a good sense of how everything works. This is especially useful for demons because of the sheer amount of options that they have, but also the fact that you're locked into a lot of those options. So you need to know in advance what you want to go for and what kind of units you want to build. So, without any further ado, let's begin. Now, demons are a unique faction in many ways. They have, most of their units can deep strike from tier 0, from the very beginning of the game. They use Relic differently to other factions, similar to how Dark Eldar would use Souls or how Sisters would use Faith, but they also use it for their late game units on top of war gear, researches, and other things. And they also have resource exchange where you can trade resources back and forth between requisition and power, which doesn't sound too impactful, but actually has a big impact on how you want to play them. I'll be showing off how exactly that works, why that's so impactful later on when I'm going through some builds, but just keep it in mind. So, to quickly go over its strengths and weaknesses, their main strength is their overwhelming numbers. They are a swarmy faction where you will have a lot of smaller units supplemented by giant demons and very strong heroes. But most of your units are melee, so your faction identity is to swarm the enemy with numbers and big boys, and just smack them all to death. Another strength, and this goes along with the resource trading I just mentioned, is that their economy is quite split. Your listening posts only cost power, your generators obviously only cost requisition, and a lot of your units have either a strong power leaning or a strong requisition leaning, so you can trade resources back and forth. Their weaknesses, they have a general lack of ranged options, where they only have a few units who can even shoot, and even those tend to be more so specialized unless you go for specific subfactions. And their morale works differently, where instead of reducing accuracy and increasing movement speed, it increases movement speed as well, but it doesn't decrease accuracy. Instead, the health of your units drains whilst they're out of morale. So, first thing I want to mention is that I will not be going over all of the units in their lesser demon portal, the greater demon portal, or the subfaction researches and what the subfactions do. All of that is covered by a video we made, First Look at the Chaos Demons rework. All of the information about these units and their specific roles as to their subfactions is covered in there. So if you want to have a look, I'll leave a link to it in the description. What I'll be doing is that I'll be going over their general economy, things that we probably did not mention in that video, and also things that we simply did not mention, like there's other units like commanders that we didn't mention in that video, that kind of thing. So, first thing first, let's look at their economy. Get a generator and show this off. So, as you can see, there's buttons here, and this is the resource exchange. You can trade 100 power for 75 requisition, 100 requisition for 50 power, and these later on ones have a better ratio. Okay. And you can also trade relic for both of them. And as you can see, you start with more relic, and it increases over time to infinity. It is not limited the way it is to other factions. However, due to that, most of their late game units still cost supply, rather than being purely just relic dependent. And also, on top of increasing your normal stats, their listening post increase your relic production as well. That's very important. And as you can see, the listening post upgrade costs only power. And there are 3 of them. You get 1 in tier 0, 1 in tier 1, and 1 in tier 3. Okay. So those are the kind of main things. Now let's look at their researches. So first of all, you'll get no matter which god you go for, you will get an option to go lesser or greater. So lesser will increase your squad cap up to a maximum of 40, and greater will increase your vehicle cap up to a maximum of 40 from 30. Furthermore, most of their researches don't have a normal split between requisition and power, where they cost more requisition than power. Most of them cost exactly the same. And as you can see in here, most of these cost the same. And also, they usually take a lot longer than researches for other factions would. So keep that in mind, and this is where this trading really comes into play, where if you want to be able to get these in a timely manner, chances are you'll need to trade a few resources back and forth, or trade relic for some resources in order to get the researches that you need. And these are very important to get. The morale, the toughness, the armor, even the fear, the regeneration is really good, but even something like the fear is really powerful. So all of these are useful, and you should aim to get all of them. Furthermore, these 2 researches for the lost souls are really powerful as well, making them invisible, giving them a jump. And this one is your late game detection, where it will provide a giant radius around it for each lost soul out of the field up to 5. And it will be able to see quite a bit of the map. Like once you have 5 lost souls, they'll be able to see from here up to like here or something. So pretty big AoE radius. So that's quickly mentioning their researches. Let's move on to some of their buildings. So Lesser Demon Portal, Greater Demon Portal, Dark Circle, all pretty self-explanatory. If you go for minions, your units in the Lesser Demon Portal will have buffs for the subfaction researches. If you go for Greater Demons, these units will get buffed. And this is just the building to research things in. Now we get into the more interesting buildings. First of all, Eye of Madness. This is probably the best mine unit in the game. What it does is that instead of exploding once and that being it, all enemy units in an area around it will have their movement speed reduced, will take damage over time, and occasionally they will turn on each other and fight each other. This is very powerful, and you can place it outside of your own zone of control. So let's say you have a listening post that you don't want the enemy to try to get. You could place these down before placing down the listening post, and they will quickly build, and they'll serve as protection for the listening post. Because the listening post itself, for demons, it doesn't shoot out, it has an AoE around it that it does damage in, which is both good versus Swarm, but also doesn't do much damage versus heroes, or like it can't hit units which attack it at range. So these guys are very important in the early game for defense and occasional offense. Demon Claw Obelisks starts off as a fairly basic turret. However, if you upgrade it, these upgrades, they are cumulative. This does not replace your weapon. This is an addition to your weapon. So you want to grab these if you want your Demon Claw Obelisks to really be powerful. Maledictum. You can use it to spawn a unit and get some researches. I'm not going to talk too much about it, as it's probably going to be reworked at some point in the future, but it's fairly basic. Get this unit if you want it. It's your artillery unit. It's not particularly good, but it's decent. But the most important thing are these two researches, and you want it to be in Maledictum form in order to get these, because you want to gen boost this. One important thing is if you spawn the unit, you will not be able to get the bonuses from production and get these quicker. So that's a trade-off you're going to have to think about. So we went over these two. Infernal Labs, fairly basic. As you can see, this does not have the power dump and requisition dump, because the trading replaces that. But it does have the production output increase. So, to go over the rest of the buildings, this is Nightmare Gateway is your Titan production. This is where you get your Titans, which is the tier 4 Titans, which is the Greater Brass Scorpion. Very powerful melee unit. Will absolutely destroy Titans and just commanders and all of that, so very good late game. And if you want your anti-swarm, go for the Helldrake instead. So this is good versus like chunky single targets. This is good versus swarms and aircraft. So, and then Nightmare Altar, this is just your nuke center. Pretty normal nukes, nothing too spectacular there. Okay. So let's move on to talking about some units that we didn't talk about in the other video. So first of all, some core units. Furies and the Demon Lord. Furies are your capping unit. They are the only unit for demons that can cap. You can get a research for them here, and if you go undivided, you can get a second research for them. So first research gives them more squad members and a jump and some damage and some extra health. And second research gives them more members, better stats, and also makes them invisible. But it's only available if you go undivided. So keep that in mind. It's very, very powerful. It's why it was locked behind undivided, but you need to be careful about it. So, Demon Lord, very powerful in the early game. When I go into my build orders, you will notice I will get him in the early game most of the time. He doesn't do much damage, but both his tankiness and this ability, which does a giant cone of damage to units, is very powerful, and he scales very well. So, if I get hero levels, you may note these don't cost normal resources, they cost relic. And in the early game, in tier 0, tier 1, you don't have any use for your relic. So if you want an early way to use your relic, use it to upgrade the Demon Lord. And these are not that expensive, so you can definitely get to upgrade them. And also, at level 5, the Gaze of Murder is really, really strong, where you click on this, you click on an enemy hero, and so one thing you need to be careful about is that the Demon Lord, so the enemy hero will get pushed up into the sky, and then they will wiggle around, and they will then explode and just die instantly. However, one thing to be careful about is if you put it at the end of the range, the hero will start wiggling around, and they might wiggle out of the range, at which point the ability breaks and it stops. So you need to be close to your enemy before using it, but it's basically an insta-shot on any hero. Most heroes will instantly die to it. Maybe like late-game Space Marine heroes will survive it, and that's it. So yeah, very powerful. Him and Furies form the early game strategy for a lot of demon play. Okay, so then in terms of other units, these all have been gone over. Shadow Fiends, and I'll go over the Heralds and the other commanders in a second as well. So Shadow Fiends, they're one of the kind of ranged units that you get. They have some choices in what weaponry you want to get. It's all good in its own way. So versatile units should definitely get it, especially if you leveled up your hero to level 3 or level 5, because these levels are shared and these guys get extra stats for it, as do these guys. So just a good general unit to have. Now, Undivided doesn't have at the moment a Herald and a Demon Prince. This might get changed later, so I'm not sure what that will look like in the future, so you might need to check those out yourself. But for now, in Tier 1, if you go Khorne, you get a Herald of Khorne. So this guy is fast. He regenerates health when in combat. When he's in combat with things, he regenerates health a lot faster than he would outside of it. And he has Blood Frenzy, which increases movement speed charge, damage, but nothing else can be used. So you can't use Run and any other abilities that he gets. Okay. So if you attach him to a unit, this works, but then that unit can't use any of its other abilities. So, as for the second unit, in Tier 2, you get access to a Demon Prince. And the Demon Prince has its own abilities. Big tank for being a Tier 2 unit, as you can see. Lots of damage, jump, again, just really powerful in melee. And another thing to note is that these two researches, they buff so the first one buffs Demon Lord and Herald. Second one buffs Demon Prince and Shadow Fiends. So if you're using your heroes in Tier 3, I highly recommend getting these. They are really powerful in Tier 3, and they scale pretty well into Tier 4 as well. So definitely get these if you're using your heroes. So, as for Nurgle, Nurgle is all about, well, the Heralds are all about doing damage over time and stuff to people, so I'm pretty sure this guy has an aura that does damage over time. As you can see, he spews out things in a cone in front of him. He has an ability. Yeah, enemy troops will do damage over time. And similarly with the Prince, see. So let me get them both to level 5 to show off. So as you can see, more health than the other guy, and some abilities as well. Okay, I'm not going to go over them in detail, but tanky, but relatively slow. Not as slow as a lot of Nurgle units, but still quite slow, and obviously no jump. So Slaanesh, these heroes are all about speed and disruption, to go in line with what Slaanesh is about. So this hero is actually really interesting because they have a passive ability on them where if they are attacking a unit and they attack a unit for a certain amount of time. So they have a cone in front of them. And if a unit remains in that cone for a certain amount of time, they will have their movement speed reduced. They can no longer use abilities, just massive, massive debuffs. It's like, if you can think of it like a gaze mechanic, where when the herald gazes at them too long, it does all sorts of things to the enemy. And reducing accuracy of enemy troops. This is an AoE as well, so quite powerful. You get this guy in the middle of the enemies, and then you just pop this, and it reduces enemy damage significantly. So again, ability's not going to go over them. As you can see, less health than the other guys, even at level 5, but faster and has a jump. So let's go over Tzeentch. Tzeentch Herald is the only one who's ranged. The other ones are melee. And as you level them up, they also get a lot more abilities. But they're a lot squishier than the other guys. So you get Double Ball, Chains of Torment, all sorts of fun abilities as you level them up. But they are squishy in comparison. So, Demon Prince of Tzeentch, similar thing, where as you can see, lots of abilities, but you need to level them up in order to get access to them. Okay. So, that was the heroes, which is most of the demon roster that we haven't went over with. I already went over the Titans. So, those are pretty self-explanatory. I will not be going over the Greater Bloodthirster. You can look into what he does yourself, but being an endgame unit, it's all pretty self-explanatory, I think, and you can just read up on him yourself. I don't want this video to be too long, because now we need to talk about strategies. So, because there is 5 options here, and 2 options of either great idea, that means that there's 10 different possible ways to play, well, 10 different distinct play styles for demons, I guess is the best way to put it, where you can go Khorne Greater, Khorne Lesser, Nurgle Greater, Nurgle Lesser, Slaanesh Greater, Slaanesh Lesser, and Tzeentch Greater and Tzeentch Lesser. So, and as well as Undivided Greater, Undivided Lesser. We go over all of the researches and the effects they have on units and all of that in the other video that I mentioned, link in the description. However, the question remains of which are you best starting off with as a beginner? Which do you want to start with? Obviously, you can start off with one that you feel best, that you like the most, but clearly some options are better for beginners than others. So let's go over them. The first one I would recommend is going Nurgle Lesser. So Nurgle, in general, is relatively tanky and relatively slow with few abilities, and especially if you go Lesser, none of the buffs for these guys have abilities, they're just stats. And this also encourages you to use other elements of your roster, because whilst these units are getting buffed, they are frontline tanks. They will not, well, they can, but a lot of they can kill enemies all on their own, but if an enemy is smart, they'll have trouble killing enemies all on their own, so you need to substitute them with other units. So you go Nurgle Lesser for their tankiness and ease of use, and then you focus on your economy and focus on your other units. Okay. Second one I would recommend is going for Tzeentch Lesser. That's because you get buffs to Pink Horrors and Flamers, both of which are powerful ranged units when buffed, and Screamers are also pretty strong in the early game. So this comp is closer to what other factions would do, where they would have just a giant stack of units, just a giant stack of enemy units that you can attack, move onto the enemy. Because when you're normally playing demons, you need to micromanage your units a lot to make sure that they're not stuck on each other. Because you'll have like 3 squads go after one, and then they're fighting for space to smack the one squad around, and it's very awkward whilst 2 other squads are shooting at you. So what you want to do is you want to micro your units to tie up all 3 enemy squads. And going Untitled Lesser avoids that, where your units, your primary units in Tier 1 and Tier 2 and Tier 3 are going to be ranged, and you can just make a giant blob and push towards the enemy. Third option I would recommend is Khorne Greater. So why not Khorne Lesser? Well, Khorne Lesser requires proper use of these units, as they're glass cannons. They're high damage but squishy, and require proper use of their abilities and toolkit to use, which can be difficult as a beginner. Khorne Greater, on the other hand, sure, these guys have abilities, and Bloodthirster also has an ability, but the units are much tankier and easier to manage. They're not as squishy. Okay, so, and fourth, and this is more of a kind of advanced strategy if you want to be really aggressive, is going Undivided Lesser, because you get access, well, actually any Undivided, sorry, not necessarily Undivided Lesser. It would actually be better to go Undivided Greater, just because then your late game is improved and you can handle your early game by simply massing a bunch of Furies. So I will not be going over all 4 of these strategies in this video, simply because it's going to take too long to show off all of them, and a few of them are pretty similar. So if you go Nurgle Lesser, it doesn't look all that different in terms of build order than Untitled Lesser, or going a bunch of Furies and teching up. Well, sorry, going a bunch of Furies and teching up does not look all that different to going Khorne Greater. So, Undivided Greater and Khorne Greater are similar, and Nurgle and Untitled Lesser are similar. So I'll be showing off one of each. I'll be showing off Nurgle Lesser, and I will be showing off Khorne Greater. And you can figure out the other 2 strategies on your own, or if people want me to, I can do another videos showing off the other strategies and maybe some other things. So, without any further ado, let's get going. So, first game, we'll be going for Nurgle Lesser. I chose to fight Sisters of Battle as my opponent for both of these, for 2 reasons. One, they tend to somewhat counter demons due to how their mechanics and things work. And 2, they have very good anti-vehicle, which will come into effect in the second game, where I'll be going for vehicles and showing off that. It wouldn't do to go against a faction for which the AI doesn't really know how to build anti-vehicle. So, let's get going. The build order for demons is nearly always going to be the same in the early game. You get 1 builder, because your builders work the same way that Dark Eldar ones do. You get 3 Furies. Your builder goes to build 2 generators and your barracks, or if you're going Undivided and you're going for Furies, you go build your armory. So you'll need to choose your god first in that case. And after the barracks or the armory, then goes and handles listening posts and all of that. You want to build 2 generators straight away, because you will be using them to upgrade your listening posts. So, this is going to be quick. HQ, Builder, 3 Furies, and later on I'm going to add a hero and another builder to that list. And the builder, 2 generators. In this case, it's going to be barracks, but you can also go for armory if you're going for Furies in the early game. So, let's go. Okay, hotkey the HQ as always. I'm going to be going for Nurgle, so I'm going to queue him up here. It's not too important to pick any of these in the early game except for Undivided. So 2 generators, and then a barrack straight after. You can choose to grab the barracks first, but we're not going to be going for units from the barracks straight away. We want to wait on that a little bit, so it doesn't hurt too badly to have the barracks a little bit later. And having the generators early means you have more generation of power, which is also quite powerful. So gents finish up just as the third Fury finishes up, which means we can go for the hero and then grab another worker. Depending on the map and how spread out it is, you might want to go for a worker before the hero, but that's up to you. So, forgot to have my Furies go over here. Let's capture the other points first. And hero will be sent straight towards the enemy. We want him to be in the enemy base, being a giant annoyance. Now we can get our first unit out, now that we see the enemy. Let's have this go after the crits. Run after them. They're gonna stop us from capping them, so let's send this unit out. Let's have the Nurglings. So the idea is you send your Furies out to cap everything that you can and basically grab as much map control as possible. And your Nurgle units and your hero are going to tie up the enemy and stop them from pushing into you. So let's start getting our... Let's get a third generator. We'll need the power to upgrade all of the listening posts anyway. Let's not use units. We want to delay them and grab map control, but we don't want to lose anything if we can avoid it. Okay, capping this one. Let's cap the middle. Let's grab a fourth generator. So as you can see, the hero is very powerful in the early game, and this is also why. I hit all of their units for a third of their health. So if the situation aligns, you can get pretty good results with that. Let's also get the Dark Circle, as we will want to grab the upgrades pretty quickly. Let's have the Nurglings go after the Seraphims so that they can't disrupt me. So yeah, and as you can see, this early game has been pretty chill so far. The Nurglings are tanky and relatively cheap, so I don't mind using them. And the hero is very tanky. It's going to be difficult to lose him. So I'm not doing much damage, but also the sisters aren't killing me. Like, the Seraphims can run around and try to, you know, harass me all they want. It's going to take them ages to do anything. Like, not a single Nurgling has died yet. That's how, you know, that's how tanky they are. They are very slow, though, as you can see. I can never catch them. So, let's go Lesser. Let's go Tier 1. And focus the rest of our stuff into upgrading the listening posts. Since I have too much requisition compared to power, but I can build more generators, I'm going to choose to build more generators rather than to trade resources. When you can no longer build any generators and you have to build HQs to get anywhere and you don't want to build HQs, that's when you would want to start trading resources. Okay. So I'll want some of these upgrades, and that's where I'll show off the trading. So let's start some trading. We want more power for many, many reasons. We want to upgrade the listening posts. Oh, actually, that's what we can spend our requisition on first. Let's get these upgrades to buff all of our Nurgle units. which we don't have a lot of, but we'll get more soon. And don't worry about the amount of power. Our power income is much lower than our requisition income, and we'll be upgrading our listening posts anyway, so it's going to even out pretty quickly. I'm not going to be taking the slags on this map because usually maps don't have 2 slags that you get access to like that, so I'm just going to ignore them to show a more general version of this build order. And look at that, we're running out of power again. So for now, let's do this. Instead of spending our requisition on getting more power, let's instead focus it for now on upgrading the heroes and getting some hero levels and getting some units. So let's get a few more Nurglings squads. Right. I should wait for the upgrade because the upgrade makes getting them cheaper. And let's get a squad or 2 of zombies. So the idea is the Nurglings actually do really good damage once you get their upgrade, but the zombies aren't high damage yet. So we're going to spawn the Nurglings onto the map and start reinforcing them. But the zombies are going to remain in Deep Strike. I'm going to hotkey the building. And once the fighting starts, that's when we'll get them. Okay, and I think it's about time for us to go. The hero has been upgraded. I got all of his researches. Let's pull the Furies back. And let's start getting some of these upgrades. Monoquill. We'll get regeneration as well. Ooh, this is a nice spot. You need to look for these straightaways. So you can see that was very effective. Let's have the hero jump in here and tie up one of the ranged squads. And let's start spawning the zombies. And as you can see, my squads are getting stuck here where they're all trying to go after one squad. This is what I mean. You want to focus them on different squads. This squad is running out of morale, so let's pull them back. We don't want units that run out of morale. And let's have one of the squads go over here. Let's pop the ability on you. And as you can see, we're causing absolute chaos in the enemy ranks. Let's get some more Nurglings. And in the middle of all of that, we have accrued 1,000 resources. No worries. Let's grab you. Let's grab you. And let's start mass trading requisition. Since we want power to upgrade all of the listening posts, and we're not really using it all that much. Yeah, as you can see, not doing a lot of damage, not killing a lot of units quickly, but god damn they're not dying. I'm just in the enemy base, causing all sorts of disruption, causing them to not be able to do what they want to do. How are my researches going? Okay, let's get regeneration, toughness, all of that. And let's... Oops, no, not this one. Let's do some more trading. Let's spawn a Nurgling over here to go after those, and let's spawn a Nurgling over there to go after those. Ooh, let's back you up. We want our hero. Where's our hero? Hero, go over here. Fuck these up. And let's have you go after that listening post. So yeah, and as you can see, this is not very expensive for me. Like, these guys are very cheap to get out. Hell, I could probably auto-reinforce them. Auto-build them. So yeah, as you can see, these researches are very slow, so let's continue getting up our economy. The enemy's all tied up. Do some more trading. Sure, let's have these guys start. Generators. These guys are killing the listening post. Great. Once it's dead, let's send a squad of Furies over here, and let's have these guys move on to there. How's our hero doing? Good. Let's have this hero come over here as well. Why didn't you use the ability? Use your ability. Thank you. Let's upgrade you. And you could get more HQs instead of trading like this, but I want to focus more on the early game, so I want to trade because a HQ is a big investment. So yeah, and the enemy is fucked. If it wasn't harder AI, it would be dead, and they're still dead. Already dead, and they're still dead because they don't have listening posts anymore. They just can't do anything anymore. Their units are all sorts of screwed. I'm just absolutely demolishing their base. I'm in their base. I'm killing their generators. Don't kill my Fury squad, please. Okay, so let's get up to... Alright, you need to build a greater demon portal. Oopsie, forgot about that. So this is where you can easily go, very casually go up to... Oh yeah, let's pop some regen. So this ability on your listening post, it gives you all of your units' health regeneration for a time. It's really good. Should probably have been using it a lot earlier, but I kind of forgot. Let's get some more Furies just so I can decap their points quicker, because I think some of my Fury squads died. And once we are tier 2, okay, great. Cap you, and cap you. Where are my Nurglings? Get over here. So yeah, I'm even tying up vehicles. None of my units are explicitly anti-vehicle, but just by the sheer number of them, they're slowly killing them. So yeah. Welcome to Nurgle. This is what you do. You just kind of just slowly kill the enemy. It's not quick. It's not particularly flashy, but goddamn is it effective. Let's get some more upgrades for our units. Let's do some more resource trading. Too much. Let's get one of you. And yeah, the enemy is just dead. As you can see, they eventually have run out of units. And yeah, at this point, as you can see, the battle's done. So if the game wasn't over, what you would do is I just got the upgrades for zombies. So instead of spamming mass Nurglings, you could get some Nurglings, but you would focus more on zombies. And then when you go up to tier 3, you would get the upgrade for... Plague Bears, and you would focus on Plague Bearers. So right now, when my Nurglings start dying, I'll focus on getting Nurgle Zombies and Plague Bears, only getting Nurglings if I need a cheap front line, and then focus mostly on Plague Bearers with maybe some zombies in between. Since it's tier 2, should probably get the Demon Prince, and just kind of continue this endless wave of just units. This game's basically over, so let's move on to the next one. So this game will be going over how to do a build for Greater Khorne. This will be using the Juggernaut and the Defiler mostly. Maybe we'll get a Bloodthirster, but the game probably won't last to tier 3. It will probably end at tier 2, most likely. So this build order is going to be a little bit different. Instead of applying a little bit of pressure tier 0 and then going all in tier 1, we'll instead be applying a bit more pressure tier 0, then cutting back on the pressure tier 1, and putting the pressure on in tier 2. You can do this differently, to be clear. You can try to apply pressure tier 1 just as you get your vehicles out. However, your vehicles are going to be much better in tier 2. And if you put them out in tier 1, by the time you get into tier 2, the enemy will know what you're going for. So I would recommend going for infantry and making the enemy think you're going for an infantry push, and then coming out with a bunch of vehicles and blindsiding them. So early game build order is going to be exactly the same. Worker, 3 Furies, and Khorne. This time we're going for the barracks first because we do want our units out early. We care about our units getting our flesh hounds out more than we care about getting our hero out. This is a specific thing with flesh hounds because you want them to be near enemy units that die, so that they can feast on them. So you want to get them out as early as possible. So let's send the third squad of Furies across. Let's grab the hero. And let's grab the first squad of Fleshhounds. By the time the Furies get across, the Fleshhound squad should be finished. It's going to be difficult to kill Sisters units, but I'm going to try anyway, just to show you how this should work. Try not to lose any of your units before your hero comes out. Your hero is going to be the thing that's really kind of a linchpin of this army. Let's try to get these guys in here. Grab your hero on. So as you can see, this is already a little bit more micro-intensive than the other one was, just because your units are squishier. This is no Nurglings that are very cheap and have a lot of health. These units are more expensive and not as tough. But regardless, I can still try. Grab some enemy units. Let's have you go over there. And by applying this early pressure, we are able to stop the AI from capturing the listening posts as early as they really should, which is quite powerful still. So, but unfortunately, the AI is not letting us kill any units, so let's have us feast on this corpse for now. And for this one, we will want to get a second HQ relatively early. So let's try to stop this listening post. Let's see if we can. Though they do have a squad of normal sisters, so probably not. Let's move this way instead. Can we pick off some of the workers? No, okay. We can't really do anything right now. Okay, that's fine. So, early game pressure have been applied. I have delayed the enemy quite a bit. So now let's focus on our economy. So we want to get 2 extra generators in the base. Obviously, you can move them somewhere else if you want to. And on this map, I like to have the 2 extra generators over here. So let's do that. And now we play more defensive. We go into tier 1 and we play more defensive. Where what we're trying to do is we're trying to carefully not lose too much map control, but at the same time not lose units. It's a fine balancing act where the enemy will push towards you at some point. You just need to be careful to not just die, but also not spend too much on getting units. Because if you're getting units, well, you're not getting eco, which you need for this build order, because you need more generators. So let's get a second HQ. I'm putting it further up to tank in case the enemy tries to go for me. And I have a bunch of Furies in the front lines, kind of seeing if the enemy is going to come and attack me. So let's put these guys over here in case they try to come from this direction. And you could be spending more time microwaving and, you know, tying up the enemy, but I want to focus on doing this. You need a lot of APM in order to be able to pull this off while still harassing the enemy. Okay, so as you can see, the enemies are coming for me. Let's upgrade the hero to level 3. And let's get some Eyes of Madness. So, boom, boom. Right. Okay. In case they come knocking again. And let's send the Flesh Hounds in as well. Ooh, there's a kind of nest over here. That's cool. Okay, we have the second HQ done. So let's pop some more generators down. Retreat to the Eye of Madness. As you can see, it's forcing the unit to attack each other and do all sorts of nasty things. And we're playing this kind of back and forth where I can't push into the enemy and kill them. If I try, I will die. But at the same time, I am trying to not let the enemy push into me. It's this kind of deadly dance. Ooh, need to pull these guys back. Don't want them to die. Crap, the Eye of Madness died. Okay. Considering how aggressive the AI is being, I might need to... Ooh, rip. Might need to get the units tier 1 and not wait for tier 2. But we'll have to see. They have more power now. We do want to spend some of it on this. If I'm doing that, I should be grabbing that here. And yeah, we're holding. good enough. So let's grab you. And soon we can start getting our units out. So let's go greater. And we are still having issues with having more requisition than power. So let's do some power trading over here as well. And not start getting these guys. So we're tier 2 now. Cool. Let's get the Juggernaut research and grab some more Juggernauts. Let's get a Demon Prince if we have the resources for it. So yeah, as you can see by them retreating straight away, this is not something the enemy was expecting at all. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, it looks so derpy. Try to focus down the Confessor. And let's just grab more Juggernauts and send them in. And again, trade some acquisition for power. And let's get one of you as well. Now we need to be very careful to specifically try to focus down units that have anti-vehicle. So this is very important, where, as you can see, this is a squad of Celestians. We don't want the Celestians focusing down our Juggernauts, so we need to make sure that the Celestians are tied up in combat and can't target them down. Let's start focusing down their listening post. As long as they're focusing on our heroes, they're not focusing on the other things. Let's grab you. And let's just have you pump out constant Juggernauts. They're focusing down our heroes, so need to fly you over. Juggernaut is being focused down again. Yeah, the Sister's AI is very good at kiting. It's actually quite difficult to focus down its units just because of how good they are at kiting. But eventually we'll get them. And again, we're having problems with having more requisition than power. So we could build another HQ, but I want to finish this game off quickly, so instead I'm going to just trade resources. And at this point, I think we can say that the game's over. I'm in their base. They're not killing the units as fast as I am getting them. And yeah. So as long as you're careful with not having your vehicles focused down, as you can see, this is quite a strong push. Well, hopefully this was helpful. I know that after the rework, Daemons can be a bit difficult to get a handle of, but hopefully this helped. If you have any questions or suggestions about what factions should be done next, please say so in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.